Hello friends of Oak Hills, this is Pastor Dale with our weekly video Touchpoint. Today is Thursday, March 14th, 2024. For our Points to Ponder article, we return to our series about Jesus and his money. This is part 7, and this article is titled Money, Love, and Evil. In the first century, money was a big deal. The wealth and convenience we enjoy in the 21st century America, however, by far outweighs the wealth enjoyed in the first century. That's why Jesus' perspective and teaching on money and wealth is all the more important for our spiritual health in relationship with God here in the 21st century. We need to heed his warnings about the poisonous treasuring of money. The Apostle Paul reinforces Jesus' teaching on wealth in his first letter to Timothy. Perhaps you are even familiar with Paul's famous statement in chapter 6, verse 10. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Many are quick to point out that it is the love of money that is the root of evil, not money itself, perhaps seeking to assuage any conviction about having wealth. What does Paul mean, though, by the love of money, and how does his teaching compare with Jesus's? Number one, the love of money is the opposite of contentment. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, Paul is commending contentment as a companion to godliness. Godliness with contentment is great gain, he says, verse 6. If we have food and clothing with these, we will be content. Then he contrasts contentment with the desire to be rich in verse 9. This desire is harmful and destructive. Why? Because it strikes at the very heart of our being. Wealth becomes the treasure of the heart. That's what Paul means by the love of money. This is on par with Jesus' teaching that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also, from Matthew 6:21. Several corollaries can be drawn from this. Number one, at the root of discontentment is the love of money. Number two, discontentment is a form of idolatry, as it holds wealth as the treasure of one's heart, as the means of gaining all one longs for. Number three, you can have utterly no wealth in this world and still be ensnared with the love of money. So how about you? Does the love of money rear its ugly head in your life through discontentment? Number two, hope in God is the antidote for the love of money. Paul says in verse 17, charge the rich not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God. Remember the rich young ruler? He walked away from Jesus dejected because his hope was in his wealth. He did not want to let it go when Jesus told him to. He could not see God as greater treasure than his wealth. Paul is calling all of us to hope in God, to value and trust in God as the greatest treasure, as the means of satisfying all of our deepest longings. The gospel, the message about the supreme value of God available to us through Jesus Christ, is the only remedy for the poison of loving money. Number three, Paul, like Jesus, commends a generous attitude towards money. Paul continues in verse 18 saying, they are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share. Generosity is not only evidence of our conversion, a new treasure of the heart, so to say, namely God, it is also the means to fight the good fight of faith, to grow in contentment and in love for God. If you are giving your money away, you will certainly not hope in riches. And number four, Paul, also like Jesus, points to heavenly reward. Through the gospel and the work of the gospel in bringing about a new heart and new desires, one has hope of heavenly treasure with God. Paul says in 1 Timothy 6:19, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future. Paul, just like Jesus, seeks to woo his readers towards obedience and hope in God with the promise of reward. God is the greatest treasure because he can give what money cannot give to us. A couple highlights to draw our attention to this week in the life of Oak Hills. Number one, we remind you our missionaries of the month are Quinn and Emily Sloan. Quinn is the RUF minister on the KU campus. And this is his first year there on campus, starting up the new RUF ministry. And so we're praying for that startup ministry, the contacts that he has with students on campus, praying that that would be fruitful and that the ministry would grow. Well, we just are adding to our information of what we know about Quinn and Emily. They are pregnant, expecting a child here at the end of March. And so they also ask for prayer regarding this pregnancy and the safe delivery of their child coming, Lord willing, by the end of this month. So let's be praying for the Sloan family and the RUF ministry at KU. Secondly, I want to remind you that Pastor John has been teaching a new class for the Adult Christian Education Hour at 9:30 on Sunday mornings. This class is called The Great Invitation. It's about sharing the hope of the gospel, inviting people into church, especially people who may have de-churched, that have a church background but have walked away from the church. It's a practical class, an encouraging class to help us think about how we can share the hope of Christ with others. 2 more weeks are left for the class. I encourage you to come even if you haven't been there yet. Of course, in a little over 2 weeks is Easter weekend. It's a significant weekend in the life of the church for believers as we celebrate the hope of the resurrection that Christ secures for us in his own resurrection from the dead. So this Easter, there's multiple ways for you to participate in our activities. First off, I want to highlight that on Saturday, March 23rd, a week before Easter weekend, Pastor John is leading a prayer walk through our neighborhood. It's an opportunity to be praying for our neighbors right in our community around the church building. And as God would open up opportunities to have conversations, to invite people to come and visit us at Oak Hills. Secondly, on Friday, March 29th at 7 p.m., we are holding our annual Good Friday service. It's a service of shadows where we reflect on the pain and agony that Jesus endures on that fateful day a couple thousand years ago. And so come and reflect on the truth of Scripture and the sacrifice of Christ with us in our Good Friday service on Friday, March 29th at 7 p.m. Then on Easter morning, we are having our egg hunt for children of all ages. That will be ready by 9:30 in the morning. We encourage you to come. Let our kids enjoy that. Weather permitting, we'll be outdoors. And then following the egg hunt, we have a church family reception that's open for our visitors and for our whole church family to meet one another and enjoy fellowship together. So that is on Easter morning. And of course, our Easter morning worship at 10:30. So I'd love for you to be a part of Easter. Love for you to be thinking about who you would invite. Be praying about who you would invite. And take the opportunity. We have flyers available at the church. Our website has the information. You utilize these avenues to invite people to come and be part of what's happening at Oak Hills this Easter. And then looking ahead to Easter, we want to do some spring cleaning around the church property. And if you're available to help us out on a work day, Saturday, March 23rd, this was Mason Welsh, our chairman of our deacons, will be heading up this effort. He's going to be there at 11 a.m. on that Saturday, so after the prayer walk. But if you want to come earlier and just start doing yard work in our church yard, you are more than welcome to pitch in and helping us spruce up our church property in preparation for Easter. Well, thank you for joining me this day for our weekly Touchpoint. We look forward to being with you soon. God bless.